Okay, you know how like when you hear of like this a concept and you can't get it out of your head because it becomes so useful for you, so you like repeat it over and over. Does that happen to you also? I don't know if it's just like a personality trait by me, but it's kind of like it's kind of like when I was a kid and hearing funny one-liners in a movie. I guess now in my job this is how it is, right? And I learned this one concept off of Tony Klein's podcast with Darius Trutna. And it's the definition, you know, how there's a difference in property management between two buckets of work, defined work and undefined work. And more importantly, that concept I think is a perfect way to explain. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. Okay, so I'm listening to Tony Klein's podcast, Property Management Success podcast. I listen to it a lot, for the record. He's got this guy, Darius Trutna, on, who I haven't met, would love to meet if you want to introduce me. And he is talking about how he was a 100-door property management company, and he absorbed an 800-door property management company, and it didn't break. Really interesting conversation. He clearly had some really good thoughts around, you know, culture and leadership and scaling and technology, right? Like one of the big reasons he was there is because he's built his own products. He's great takes on technology all throughout the episode. And at one point, Tony asks a question that is very pertinent, right? Like it's not the main one I get most of the time, but I think people start to ask it. And it's this dark side thing of AI. When he goes, okay, so if there is now an agent that can do all these things for me, why can't the parent company then start doing those things directly for the client? And, you know, when is AI going to be able to like replace this? He drew the comparison of like Zillow, right? Like at first it was like, oh, thanks for all this help, Zillow. And then all of a sudden Zillow's like, oh, now I got your stuff and I'm selling it back to you and you can't work without it. So, you know, he's making that comparison. And Darius explained it really succinctly. He was like, first of all, he chuckled off the idea that AI could do a property manager's job. Fair. And then he was like, listen, man, you know, property management basically has like two types of work. It's got defined work and undefined work. The defined work is the stuff that we write into processes, right? Like the things that are easy to catalog. Well, not easy to catalog. The things that we catalog and the things that we train for and the things that we scale for. And, you know, the coordination, the follow-up rhythm, the policies around what you do with a lockout, right? Like if you have internal kind of like troubleshooting knowledge and policy and you've codified that, stuff like that, right? And then there's undefined work. There's the, you know, bedside manner of how you explain to an owner of like a big expense. There is the bullshit meter when a vendor keeps giving you NTE, you know, like contracts just like $100 under NTE or $50 under NTE, right? There is, you know, knowing that a resident has had a couple of like maintenance things in a row, so reaching out to do something special, knowing that you're going to want to renew them one day, right? Like that type of stuff. And he described that really the defined work is about 80% of the job and 20% is the undefined work. So as we scale, the amount of defined work grows. I keep saying exponentially. I don't think that's right. Grows at a 4-to-1 scale from the undefined work, right? And you start to just hire a bunch of people doing just defined work, and that defined work is not very fulfilling, and that's what leads to burnout. And, you know, that's what leads to turnover and people quitting because they don't have a path to doing the stuff that actually gives their work meaning, which is the undefined work. And that reminds me very much of David Norman, our chief property manager, you know, his story of going from 0 to 600 doors and in 4 years. And like his job description for maintenance coordinators, he was looking for these like super detail oriented, high capacity people that were good on the phone. And he would find them, but they would kind of turn over every 9 months because they didn't have, you know, like he didn't have the jobs that they needed. These are people that hold their work to a high standard. They expect to be fulfilled, rightly so. And, you know, Dara said basically AI, the best agents right now are good at doing the defined work, but that undefined stuff, that's never going to get replaced, or at least is not on the horizon. He's 100% correct. 100% correct, right? That is a really good way of thinking what an AI agent can do for you. It's not going to fix your business, but it will learn your stuff and do it at the level that you want it to every single time, thereby opening up some capacity for you to like refine your best stuff. I think that's a big difference between the messages that's out there, or at least maybe even how we're perceived, right? Like this idea that, AI is not going to save you. It's just going to raise your standard to your standard, right? It's going to eliminate the variability of how people follow processes, and it's going to basically give your team the people on your team the role that they want, right? Like the role of, the owner's guy, right? This is the way that Dave would call it. He was like, I grew my company because I was their guy, right? They could get a hold of me. And as I got to like 500 doors, that stopped happening, right? So that's what your maintenance person can be. They can be that person for them, which is the undefined, meaningful work, while AI handles the defined work. And you no longer have to go through this paradox of churn where you need this certain type of person, but you don't have the right seat on the bus for them for longer than 6-8 months. That's the big hit in cost. And I think it's a really good way of thinking what AI can do for you. And obviously, this is what Vendoroo can do for you in your maintenance department, right? So like that goes without saying, but that's really, those are the buckets that you want to be thinking about of where do I bring AI? How do I think about buying AI? Like if you have like one person and they're stretched to their max, but they're great. It's like like an AI agent is their perfect assistant. If you're just starting from scratch and it's probably your first hire, right? Like if you have a team of 6 or 7, 2 or 3 of them are excellent. The rest of them, you just need them, right? Like that's a good use of it. Not saying that it's there to take jobs, but man, think about less headaches from the people that you have to like make up for more often. It's a big deal when you run a company. So I hope this helps you think about it. Shout out to Tony and Darius for a great conversation. And if anybody wants to introduce me to Darius, I'm just going to put that challenge out there. See if Tony's even listening to this. I'd love to have him on the show. Super smart about technology. Okay, thanks.